So as you're coming in, I invite you to fill in one of the tables, and then if you still have your instruction sheet, which you should have, you'll notice at the bottom, there are some questions for you to reflect on together as you share your stories. And the first is the familiar one we use for dwelling in the Word, which is, what caught your imagination? What did you notice? Did you sense the Spirit nudging you in any way? What awakened your spiritual curiosity? And then, of course, did you have an opportunity to share God's peace with someone during the walk? What happened there? Right? So fill in, and if you're at a table of two, join some other folks, make some new friends, and go ahead and spend some time sharing your pictures and your stories. And if you have any photos to post with the hashtag, do it now so they can be gathered. Just having this dance. I know, it's serious.
On the diocesan page, or just on your agenda?
I'm going to show people. Well, it's in the exhibit hall. Gone. Oh my gosh.
Are you ready to start?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you have a question?
I just had a question.
So if we can take just maybe another 30 seconds to wrap up that last thought at your table, and then we're going to have a chance to do some sharing with the larger group, some of your stories or questions. All right. So before we break at 5 o'clock, we've got a little time for just. I'm curious, what was it experience like doing this? Are there any encounters or stories or questions that anyone would like to share? We've got our microphones up here. From doing this walk or the experience of dwelling in the Word, anyone be so bold as to come on up and share. I know there were amazing pictures being taken, and I could hear the buzz at your tables of all kinds of stories being shared. So, so let's hear from some of you. Don't be shy. All right, it was always the first person to go. Thank you. Come on up to one of these mics so we can hear you. No, you can just talk. And we're working on getting the photos in a format where they can all be shown, so just hold tight on that. That's a little more of a process. Yes.
But I'll explain the pictures, and then when you see them, you'll understand the pictures.
All right.
The very first thing we saw as we walked out the door, or I saw, and I pointed out to Carolyn, my partner, was one of those little scooters shoved up in the bush. So I took a picture of it, and then I checked the bush to make sure there was nobody injured or hurt.
Hidden it. All right. Good thing.
The Good Samaritan. And I was raised in the Good Samaritan back in Pennsylvania. So the next picture we took was near the bus station, was a sleeping bag and an old tire, and of the homelessness and the cold and there was nobody else, so we looked in the we looked at the sleeping bag. The third picture was the tree. It's wrapped in a crochet for love, of warmth, and it's for the hotline crisis, and it says on it, and that's one of the pictures. And then the last picture, as we went into the library, and as we were coming out of the library, there's a young gal with a service dog, and so we stopped and we asked her if we could take her picture. She, of course, wanted an explanation of why and what. And what I thought was from Carolyn, my partner. She said, D-O-G, G-O-D, God, that's our picture. So that's our.
All right. Thanks. Other stories, experiences you had on this, we'd love to hear a few of them. What happened? And again, what caught your imagination? We're bringing spiritual lens to this, right? So how do we connect some of these experiences with God? Yes, please.
Well, we saw some interesting plant life. We took some pictures of. But what was really exciting, and I think the reason we were there, is we ended up going to my sister's closet. And it's a place that collects clothing and accessibles and toiletries for women that are hunting for a job so that they can have clothes to wear to go for an interview. And what's really sad is this convention center owns their building, and they have to move out of it. And they're trying to get money enough to move somewhere else, and I don't know if they'll be able to. But they've been there, I think it's at least 7 years, and there were quite a few people coming in. We took a picture of the lady. She was so sweet. I mean, we just clicked with her, so that was really wonderful.
So you found a neighbor who received the piece that you offered.
And she hugged us.
Oh.
Yeah.
All right. Great. Thanks.
And one of us really smelled bad. No.
Here we go. Another person coming up to the mic. Yeah.
So we were walking around the square, and we came up to a stoplight to cross the street.
Yeah.
And the light was red. And there was a woman standing there, and I said, "Excuse me, may I ask you a question?" And she said, "Sure." And I said, "If I offered you the peace of God, would it creep you out?" And she said, "No, I'm from Alabama." And I said, "Can you say more about that?" And she said, "Well, in Alabama, we always have crazy religious things going on, so it wouldn't bother me a bit. But I wouldn't do that to somebody from Bloomington." So I offered that, and then we started to talk a little bit, and then it must have been enough, because on a red light, she ran across the street.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Okay, thanks. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Leslie from St. Francis, Zionsville, and I had the pleasure of going with Sadie. Where is she? There she is. And we went on a walk towards Fountain Square, which is, a little indoor mall, and couldn't find anybody. I don't know what happened. There's like all of Bloomington left or something, but we found this lovely little coffee shop in the basement, and it was run by this really nice husband and wife team. and got chatting with them, and it turns out that they're from Afghanistan, but have been living here for 30 years. And the interesting thing is, one of the pictures I posted is in their coffee shop, they were selling coffee with a cause to help their neighbors recover from drug addiction. So I thought, wow, it takes people from halfway around the world to help us out with opioid addiction.
Wow, thanks. Great. Yeah.
I'm Whitney Smith from St. James, Newcastle, and one of the pictures we took was of the same sleeping bag that Amy shot, but we took it from around the corner, and we discovered that the homeless people had been sleeping, it's kind of an irony, under a piece of graffiti that says love on it. We also found a school, Project School PS3, which is a charter school here. And I was a school crossing guard when I was 10, and there were all these crossing guards up there, so I went up and tried to relate to them. And the woman I spoke to is named Catherine. She wanted to know what parish Joan Head and I served, so we told her. She grew up in Christ the King Catholic Parish near where I live up in Indianapolis. We connected that way. And I thought, well, she's an hourly employee being a school crossing guard, but no, she's the principal and superintendent. And that's how she's a servant leader.
Wow. Great. Wonderful, these stories. Anyone else who wants to share? All right. Well, thank you so much for trying this experiment, right, of getting out and walking, and just with a different pair of lenses, if you will, to ask to observe spiritually, be open to encounters. And again, this is a practice you can take back and do in your place with a few people on some Sunday after church, or whenever you want to do it, whatever's convenient. And then come back and share stories, right? So I want to, before we break, and there's going to be some announcements, I understand, before we break, I just want to say a word about an opportunity here in the diocese over the coming months and year to go deeper in this journey as a congregation. So at Luther Seminary, we're working with a number of dioceses and Lutheran synods on creating learning communities to equip congregations to take deeper steps in connecting with God, each other, and their neighbors through simple grassroots practices, sort of like we've been doing this afternoon, dwelling in the Word, listening more deeply to each other's stories, doing some ways of being present in the neighborhood, and some small experiments in connecting with neighbors. But doing it not alone and isolated, but actually together. Together as people within a congregation, together across congregations, gathering periodically for equipping and sharing and storytelling, and then dioceses being connected and synods being connected together to learn across from one another what is emerging. And so if you are interested in learning more about that, at 5:45, downstairs in the large Alcott room, I and the leaders of that process from the diocese will be there to answer questions and engage with you in conversation about that. So I encourage you to pick up, there's information, these little sheets in the exhibit hall, and there'll be more down there to come and learn more about that opportunity. But thank you.
I do want to thank Dwight for leading us on this beautiful journey, and as I said earlier, I hope this is the journey for the long haul. To be a community of practice is something that we don't begin and then drop after some time. It's a way of being, and I think this is a beautiful way of being as we see what God is up to and then join in. The chair recognizes dispatch of business for announcements.
I have a few announcements. First, if you are interested in joining the bilingual choir that will be leading us in song during worship tomorrow at Eucharist, then Yuri Rodriguez has invited you to join the rehearsal, which will be right at that piano tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. Any questions, please contact Yuri or find her. I also just want to let you know our schedule for the rest of the evening tonight. Again, Dwight and the Faithful Innovation Learning Communities team invites you to join us in the Alcott room from 5:45 to 6:30. At 6 o'clock, social time begins in the Duke Energy East and West. Is that this room? Is that where we are presently? No. Okay, it's not here. It's downstairs in the Duke Energy East and West room. The photo booth is going to be open from 5:30 until 9:30 tonight. Dinner and dancing starts here at 6:30 tonight. Tomorrow morning at 8, there's a clergy spouse breakfast in the hospitality room at the Marriott Courtyard Marriott. 8:30, we will have opening prayer right here. 9 o'clock, children and youth programming begins tomorrow. 9 o'clock, workshops begin, and all that information is available in your packets. I believe that is the total of announcements that I have, Bishop.
Thank you. All right, folks, it's been a rich and full day. Thank you for jumping in with both feet and with enthusiasm. The convention will now be in recess until 10:10 tomorrow morning. Have a good night. We'll see you on the dance floor.